Thank you for joining us for the webcast, Bring Your Benefits to Life to Engage a Multi-Generational Workforce, sponsored by ENI and presented by Jean Raimondi of ENI and Jenny Ray Pearson of Northwestern Mutual. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that this webcast has been pre-approved for HRCI credit and can also be used for SHRM credits. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive your credits. After the webcast, you will receive an email from HR.com within 1 to 2 business days. It will include the certification credit information. You can also log in to HR.com and go to your View My Credits page, where you can see the credits you have received. If you have any questions today for our presenters or for HR.com, please type them into the Questions tab on your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will follow up with you. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to our first presenter, Jean Raimondi.
Thank you, Kathy, and welcome everybody. Yes, we'll get started today and run through this, and I'm going to start by opening up with our agenda here. We've already had the introductions to the presenters. I want to talk about today the importance of benefits to talent recruitment and employee engagement. We're going to also go over the modern workforce, which is really a lot about, multi-generations working side by side in today's workforce. Then hyper-personalization of benefits. We'll talk about what that means. Life events defined, a big part of the theme of this presentation, and using life event technology to personalize your benefit package. And then at the end, we're going to wrap up with a success story and some information from Jenny Ray Pearson from Northwestern Mutual. Okay, get started here a little bit about ENI and myself. We look at ourselves as benefit integration and engagement experts. We were founded in 1983, 34 years, we say, of life event. My name is Jean Raimondi. I'm the CEO and founder of ENI. Of course, I tell everybody I was 16 at the time that I founded ENI, so you can do the math on that. We cover over 2.5 million lives. We support HR and national brokerage firms, and we have several clients, 350 clients throughout North America and Canada. A little bit more about me to give you my background. Currently this year I had the honor of serving on the National SHRM Technology Panel for 2017. Actually, I found it very challenging and very enlightening as well. I believe in October our paper will be coming out that a bunch of the national HR people put together. It's really, we focused on cognitive computing in human resource. It's really kind of some interesting, fantastic stuff around artificial intelligence and how HR will be able to harness that to, better do what we do in this world. And there's actually a featured case study in there from IBM and what they're doing a lot with their artificial intelligence and, of course, their Watson program. These are some of the articles I published in the last, I'd say 18 months. I won't read them all here, but Bring Your Benefits to Life in HR Tech Outlook. It's stuff on Mobilize for Millennial Retention. The Mobile Broker, Benefits Pro. I had the Retention Advantage, obviously a big theme in HR this year. And in 2014, I published a book, Beyond Benefits, which is really a book about benefit integration and how to get benefits working together as a package versus separate and kind of siloed how they're offered today. So. Okay, Jenny Ray, a little bit about Northwestern Mutual.
Thanks so much, Jean. I appreciate it. So, again, my name is Jenny Ray Pearson. I work on the medical plan for our financial representatives here at Northwestern Mutual. We are a Fortune 500 company, and for the first time this year, we were named in the top 100, so that's pretty exciting. We just opened a brand new building in downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so we're pretty excited about that. We have a couple campuses here in the Milwaukee area. Our sales force, however, our financial representatives are spread out all over the country. So we've got 79 different network offices and then a number of smaller district offices that are all across all 50 states. So as most of you can relate to, we are very geographically dispersed, which can be quite a challenge for benefits purposes. One thing that's a little bit different about our financial representatives is that they are not technically employees of Northwestern Mutual. They are employees of their managing partners or managing directors, and so they are considered statutory employees. So we do treat them very similar to regular employees by offering benefits, but there are some interesting challenges that come along with being statutory employees. They are 100% compensation or commission-based for their compensation. So, you know, time is money for them, and that's a really important theme that you'll hear with us. So we're happy to provide benefits to them and definitely have a challenge with an ever-evolving workforce that we'll get into more in a little bit. So back to you, Gene.
Thanks, Jenny. Some of the content here from the educational standpoint, let's take a look at, I know I'm preaching to the choir in many cases, but benefits matter when it comes to retaining top talent and engaging employees. Just a couple of side notes that some of you may be aware of course. You know, we've heard about the talent war out there and the shortage of talent. I was at a seminar recently, and it was, I think it was well said when this gentleman said, okay, everybody's aware of the talent war. He said, but when it comes to HR, I have to give you a notice. He goes, you've lost. He said, talent is actually winning this war because of the shortage and the demand that they're in. Some of the stats that we know about is 10,000 baby boomers in this country are retiring a day. Since I fall into that category, I'd like to say that the loss of skilled labor and talent is very high, leaving a big drain in that area. Who's coming in, of course, is mainly the millennial crowd from there's different ways to segment those populations, but it's typically the 35 and under are filling those jobs. And there is definitely a shortage of talent to come in to fill that gap being left by that large demographic moving through our workforce, so the baby boomers in their retirement. Some of the studies, too, I won't cover all this, but some of it is like, you know, 60% of the employees surveyed in one study said benefits are very important to how they feel about their job. So that's a big part of the retention or retaining them. And of course, there's other ones that show that up to 70% would choose one job over another if they are offered a better benefit package. Of course, better is something we're going to take a look at and how that's defined. So some more stuff on retention. The one thing that really hit me, being in the HR field for as long as I have, is that when asked to rank their benefit priorities, over half the employers said that using benefits to retain employees is their top objective now and will become even more important in the next 3 to 5 years, and has surpassed controlling healthcare benefits. Very important. For the longest time, of course, healthcare benefits and the costs, which are still a major challenge, we're typically at the top of the priority list. But finally, I think because of this talent shortage, retention has risen above that. So, yeah, the majority of HR professionals today agree that retention is their top challenge. When taking this challenge, it's even more serious because of that talent shortage. There's a whole bunch of Department of Labor stats, about 6 million jobs that are open today, and that this is a record high in the country, and that by 2020, there'll be around 1.4 million, in this case, computer specialist jobs open, but not even anywhere near the qualified candidates from a graduate standpoint to fill those jobs. So right now, it looks like it's a big challenge, and it appears that the whole approach to, you know, addressing and retaining that talent is only going to get greater as the time rolls on. Here's some of the categories. If you break down some of the generations, I've seen this done different ways, but this is, you know, one of the breakdowns on it, and you can kind of get an idea of, you know, how likely they are to look for a job in the next 12 months. As you can see, the Gen Zs and Millennials are at a very high level for looking for a job in the next 12 months. Again, really heightening that idea that retention is a key point that we need to address, and how we can get these generations to stick around longer. I saw a survey too, and I was reading that a lot of these, especially millennials, they do like to stay with a job at least 3 to 5 years. And the idea that sometimes when they start a job, they're often don't feel the connection to the employer that they thought they were going to get, and that's a big key in them starting to look around when they weren't engaged properly with that employer from the start. Let's do a quick poll here to keep things moving. So we'll take a minute to let you answer this, and we can launch this poll. Is retention an issue for your organization? I'd just like to see if it matches up our answers with some of the national statistics on that. So please take just a second here and click in on that, and then we'll display the the results, and then and keep moving. All right.
Jean, it looks like most of the audience has voted. Should we close the poll now?
Yes, that'd be great.
And the results are being shared. Jean, are you able to see the results?
I don't see them at this point yet.
Okay, well, I'll just give you the results. We had 64% yes, 25% no, and 11% unsure.
Oh, okay. So 64% yes. Okay, so that's heading in the right direction with it. The national statistics show that 83% of the HR people polled in a MetLife study felt that retention was one of their biggest challenges. So it does show the majority, and it does fall somewhere in that reflection of what we're seeing out there nationally. So thank you. Okay, let's continue on here. The benefit connection. As you know, benefits have a strong influence on an employee's decision to select and retain an employer. Let's just take a look at some of these stats from an educational standpoint here. Half of employees would look for a job with better benefits if their employer didn't provide adequate coverage. That's from a 2017 study. 42% of employees say improving their benefit package is one thing their employers could do to keep them in their jobs. It's actually the second most mentioned after increasing my salary, which of course doesn't surprise anybody. One of the factors that differentiates employers from the competition for 61% of employees was to provide better than average benefits from a 2016 study from Aon Hewitt. So as you can see in the sense that benefits are connected to both retention and recruitment components of people looking at a job. This is one of my favorites here. Workers who are extremely or very satisfied with their benefit programs are 6 times more likely to stay with their employer than those who are dissatisfied with their benefit programs. There's some other reasons too that benefits make an impact, but on the 6 times, I always say to people when I'm doing speaking engagements that it was only double, that would make a big statement. The idea that people are satisfied with their benefits is very important to their feeling of that retention factor within their organization. Again, let's take a look at the modern multi-generational workforce. Again, here's some of the breakdowns on it, just so we get an idea of some of the ages that fall within these multi-generational workers that are working in most industries side by side. Easily now a lot of them have this many generations in their workforce today. Some of them have different concentrations, but definitely by 2020 this will be a big part of what the national scene will look like. The modern workforce, millennials are the largest of that workforce. Typically, there's all kinds of numbers I've seen on this, but it's anywhere between 35 and 45% of the workforce today fall within that 35 and under crowd. Again, it's actually more baby boomers are retiring than 10,000. I think it's around 11,000 something on average However, 10,000 just seems to be an easier number to remember. More than 50% of the Northwest Mutual field reps are millennials. That'll be important when Jenny Ray starts her presentation, and that has an impact on some of their decisions on their benefit offerings and connections to those benefits. The Northwest field reps run their practices largely from mobile phones and tablets, as Jenny Ray mentioned, and many benefits are desired and communication styles different, everything from mobile access to call center support and web portals. The big factor for me here is by 2025, that 35 and under crowd will most likely be somewhere around 75% of the workforce. I was at a conference last year, HR Tech conference, and an individual held up his phone in front of about 5,000 people, and he said, for those of you in the back that can't see this, this is actually my Apple phone, my smartphone, and he says, and I have some news for you. He says, when it comes to the millennials, he goes, if it's not on their phone, it doesn't exist. And he got a pretty good laugh out of that, but in a certain sense, it's somewhat true. It's a big connection to their information, a big connection to their world, and if it's not there, it kind of in a way doesn't exist to them. So another individual said, another presentation, he was sitting at the dining room table and he asked his wife, what was that? And he pointed at his daughter's hand, and she said, oh, that's her hand. And he said, well, see, I didn't recognize it without the phone in it. And when you look at the people in the younger generation walking around today, it almost does seem to be part of their hand and that whole connection to that information flow that they're working with. All right, look at some of the diverse needs. Just a couple of statements here. The millennials, when it comes to their needs for benefits and services, a millennial might say, now that the baby is here, we need a bigger house. How are the school districts in the neighborhood? Should I get a new pediatrician? I'm wondering how my benefits help me, and so on. Where, of course, the baby boomers are addressing different age and stage issues. Should I adjust my contributions to my 401k? How much money do I really need to retire comfortably? And we should sell the house now because the kids are gone, and so on. So obviously, when people are in different ages and stages, they have different needs, and we want to look at how the benefits can better address those. Quick poll, how many generations, we can launch this one, do you have predominantly working side by side in your workforce? We'll just take a minute, answer that poll, and then we'll continue on.
The poll has been launched. Okay, we'll give that about 10 more seconds and I'll close the poll. Okay, Jean, the poll has been closed, so we have up to 3, 37%. Up to 4 is 55%, and 5 is at 7%.
Okay, so the majority in this case have up to 4 generations predominantly working side by side. That's obviously the point, and what we're looking at across the country. And the benefit packages, of course, need to respond appropriately to having several different generations working within your organization. So. The hyper-personalization of benefits, responding to multi-generational workforce. We believe this is one way that you can get your benefit packages to respond to the individual needs of those different generations, is by personalizing it to them and connecting it to a way that, connecting the benefits to them in a way that's addressing their needs. Just a couple of stats on this. 74% of employees say that benefits that can be customized to meet their needs would make them more likely to accept a job with a new employer. And 72% of employees say that benefits that can be customized to meet their needs would increase their loyalty to their employers. So to truly attract and retain top talent, benefits must respond to the individual needs, and again, those different generations that are working side by side within the workforce. Furthermore, when millennials represent since they represent the largest percentage of the workforce, successfully recruiting them demands paying attention to their individual needs and benefits. When it comes to that millennial workforce, millennials are less likely than baby boomers to report health insurance as the most important benefit they receive at work. Millennials are more likely than older workers to cite paid time off as the important benefit. Millennials are also more likely than others in that age group to report that they would prefer to take the money employers spend on employer benefits and decide for themselves what to purchase with that. More of that defined contribution approach. I have to tell a quick little story here. It kind of shocked me a while back. I have a colleague that works in a large defense industry company, and he was brought in. He's actually in the baby boomer side of the generation. He was brought into a meeting, and they said that they brought the team in because they had some deadlines that needed to be addressed, and that the next 3 weeks they were going to put all paid time off, all PTO on hold for this team so they could address this deadline. And he said, to his shock, and actually a young millennial engineer raised his hand during the meeting and said that they'd have to talk about that because it wasn't possible because he had locked in some very important things that he needed to do during that paid time off. I guess it's kind of an extreme example of how important, that time off is to them, and often, like it is reported, more important than the health insurance coverage, which was always one of the big factors with benefit coverage. So obviously, he also needs some coaching on how and when to address those type of concerns, which wouldn't be in that open meeting. So more on the hyper-personalization of benefits. 53% of employers want personalized messages and materials reflecting individual needs and or stages, and 43% would like suggested benefit actions and product options in response to a life event. Clearly tapping into an employee's life events is a winning strategy, I believe, in connecting them to a benefit package. Obviously, pointing out people have different needs at different times in their life, and they're looking for those benefits to support those needs in a more personalized approach to that. This is kind of obvious here, but when you take a look at the preferences for communication, as we might guess, the millennials, Gen Zs, apps, text messaging, videos, blogs, and so on are the way they would rather receive a lot of that information. Of course, the other levels of generations, the baby boomers, in-person phone calls and emails are more their approach to feeling comfortable with getting those communication needs met. In this case here, is it possible to provide a cost-effective benefit package that meets all of your employees' needs? Well, we believe it is, and again, you can kind of see the cascade here. We believe it's through connecting those benefits through individuals' life events. It's a way to make it address their age and stage needs at the same way, get them to really engage those benefits on a way that they feel can support them in their job and everyday life. So, life events. Let's take a look at what they are and how they drive benefit engagement. A life event is defined as any significant step, event, or milestone a person may experience. Life events include marriage, buying a home, having a child, divorce, paying for college, retirement, providing care for elderly relatives, and so on. Even maybe planning a vacation. It's interesting. I was on a panel with some HR professionals, and this individual said that they were walking through the halls of their employer one day, and this woman said she had a challenge. She had to get new tires for her car, and she had no idea where to look for them. And she told her colleague that there's obviously an expensive challenge that she had, and she wasn't even sure where to start, and asked him if he had any input. And he looked at her kind of funny. He said, "Are you serious? Because we have, as a benefit here, a national tire vendor that's offered to all our employees, and we can not only get discount, tires and costs through them, but we can also get service connected to the install." And he kind of looked at her. He said, "You should kind of know that." He goes, "You're in human resource here." So you can see that life events is a great way to connect people to their benefits, and even sometimes HR, can't keep track of all the benefits and services that their employer offers. In this case, was kind of ironic since they're part of that whole approach to that benefit offering. Another quick poll. Let's take a look at this. How often do employees seek benefit information or ask questions as a result of a life event they are experiencing? So from the HR standpoint, how often do you feel that's a trigger to individuals looking for information about, their benefit package or their support services? Take another 30 seconds and see what we come up with on those.
Okay, I'm going to close off the poll now, and I'll read out the results in just a moment. Okay, Jean, so we had 45% of the audience was the greatest at 75% of the time. Next, 28% was 50% of the time. 14% was 100% of the time, and 13% of our audience voted for 25% of the time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, we can see with, at least somewhere around half of them are looking at the idea that life events and somebody having some type of either life event or interest in, what they're doing was a trigger for them to ask questions about their benefits or to, look for that support on what their benefits can offer. I've had HR people tell me that they get, calls from their employees, and some of them say that, geez, it's like 100% of the time when somebody has a life event, that triggers their need for a question or some informational disclosure about their benefit package. But whatever, it's definitely a big trigger. It's often what gets individuals thinking about that package and how it can, provide the support that they're needing during that life event. Let's take a look at life events and how they matter. A life event or life interest is the #1 reason why employees access and use their benefits. Consider all the life events that an employee may experience at any given point in their life and their career. Like we said earlier, it could be getting married, could be, having a child, it could even be dealing with grief and so on, looking for funding for their kid to go to college, illnesses, retirement, and so on. These events are what trigger benefit usage many times, and every company that offers a robust benefit package has a variety of benefits that can address, the individual's needs. They just need to be connected to them in a way that they can have access to those benefits when they need them. And back to that kind of hyper-personalization, it's the benefit package being set up in a way that addresses their needs individually based on their age and stage. So with traditional benefits, how they're set up they often are siloed and not integrated. The benefits aren't connected, in a way that they can all respond to, let's say, end life event. There's not a lot of personalization of them. They're often out there listed as a package of support and trying to get individuals to almost retain that knowledge and remember that it's there to provide service to them when they need it. It's often not, as I said, reflected by an age and stage. And, the opportunities to miss them, I think I want to say, are often missed. We've had employees many times say, I had this or that life event, or I had moved, or I did this, and then have the HR often say to them, well, we have a benefit for that, or we have a service for that. And it's often, that life event is passed. I had one of the HR professionals I worked with a number of years ago say to me, he said, the good news about our company, he said, we offer a lot of benefits and services to our people. He said, the bad news about our company, he said, we offer a lot of benefits and services to our people. And what his point was clear, was that we offer so many benefits and services that most of them can't really keep track of what we offer, and they often miss the opportunity to use them. So I think, looking for a way to better connect and communicate and engage those benefits is a big part of that increase in that employee satisfaction with that package. New approach to benefit administration. You can look at what we're going to talk about, life event technology, bring the focus back to the individual and address each unique life event by harnessing the power of, this technology and this type of approach. Life event technology, how we can do that. Step one, I think, is through setting up benefit access, how people can get to those benefits. There's really ensuring that benefits platform includes access points that respond to all your employees' preferences regardless of generation. Obviously, some of the ones here, mobile app, the millennials, I mentioned earlier, if it isn't in their phone, it doesn't exist. The call center support, many baby boomers still prefer that personal touch, somebody they can actually call and talk to. And of course, web portals. Many employees fall somewhere in between. Desktop, laptops are still a big part of our connection to benefits and information, and a web portal and that offering should be there as well. Step two with that is a single integrated benefits platform, access to all benefits wherever and whenever employees need them. That can be done through mobile access, of course. I think having a mobile app for benefits is a must in today's world. An independent integrated mobile app is something that can really connect people to those benefits, allows them to communicate through this tool on a regular, 24-hour basis. It can be an extension of the HR and connecting them with those benefits. I've even seen a lot of them where they put gamification and incentives on it, on the app, saying, hey, if you go in and look at your benefits, there's options to, play a simple game to receive some incentives that makes you more aware of that package and better connected to it. And of course, the app allows you to send notifications, through push notifications and alerts and badges through the app. I know a lot of HR is still communicating a lot of those updates and HR communication needs through emails. And of course, with the barrage and flow of emails that everybody gets today, it's often missed, and they'll often say, I never heard about the date for open enrollment, even though they might have received 4 or 5 emails on when it was coming up. Life event technology. Step 3, bring your benefits to life. Your benefit platform must be, I believe, driven by life events. I think it's a great way to connect people to that benefit package. It's often a trigger, and it's often an interesting, kind of almost fun way to see how that benefit package can support their age and stage. So it becomes very engaging. So through life event technology, you can leverage the benefits that cover a lot of support for many of the individuals, current life events. You don't really have to add a lot of benefits. Many employers in today's world offer a very robust benefit package, and it covers a lot of the needs of their even multi-generational workforce. Now we're going to move on to look at some of the ideas of how Northwestern has used this type of approach to address their workforce and their field reps, as Jenny Ray has discussed earlier, across the country. So I'll turn it over to Jenny Ray Pearson.
Thanks so much, Jean. I appreciate it. So if you want to go to the next slide, I think I'll tell you a little bit about the background of how we came to meet ENI and the challenges that we were having with our financial representatives. So Jean's talked about a lot of the challenges that we were facing that are not unique to us by any means. These are a lot of the same challenges that all of you face on a daily basis. So, here's the thing about our financial representatives. They are spread out all over the country, and we don't have any centralized HR in any of the offices. Our intranet is a little bit basic. It's hard to find information. It's not mobile friendly. It's not accessible around the clock. So we were having a hard time connecting with our financial representatives when they had these life events and when they needed to think about their benefits. Because let's face it, when does somebody think about benefits? It's certainly not 9 to 5. And so if you have a question about benefits, it's going to be in the middle of the night when your kid wakes up with an earache. It's going to be, when you wake up with, an ankle injury or, something's hurting and you need to get some assistance. That's when you're thinking about your benefits. So it doesn't fit into the same nice little package that we were currently providing because we only had call center support from, maybe 8 to 4:30. So that was one of our biggest challenges is, okay, how do we support our financial representatives so that they can get back to doing what they do best, which is meeting with our clients and providing financial security. So, that was one of the biggest challenges. As I said before, time is money to them. So they don't have time to be, calling us during the middle of the day when they could be meeting with a client. And so we were really kind of struggling. We found ourselves, we identified that especially in the realm of medical, which is very emotional, we were really having a challenge addressing how to better assist them. So we started looking for an alternative solution that could better serve them, and then at the same time, it would also allow us to free up some capacity on our team and to really provide our financial representatives with better service than even we could provide. Sometimes outsourcing can seem a little scary, but what we found is that it truly, truly ended up being one of the best decisions that we could make. So, Jean, if you don't mind going to the next slide. When we started talking with ENI, one of the things that we liked the most was just the high level of detail and attention that was given to people and the variety of ways that they could contact the Balanced Benefits program. So we mainly focused on first medical advocacy. So we were realizing that navigating healthcare is a part-time job in and of itself. It's so complicated these days. And again, our financial representatives, that was the last thing that they wanted to be doing when they got home, or their spouses were spending a lot of time working on that as well. So, just trying to provide some assistance to be able to navigate the healthcare industry was something that was really important to us and something that we were really impressed with the Balanced Benefits program. The other thing, again, 24/7 access, that was something that was really important to us, and that was a big win for us because that's not something we were currently providing at the time. And as I mentioned before, 50% of our population is millennials, 25% of our population is 55 plus, and the other 25% is somewhere in the middle. So as Jean kind of touched on, we have people who, like our 55 plus population, they do not hesitate to pick up the phone and call you. They will call you about anything and everything, and they want to talk to someone. Our millennials, on the other hand, they really don't have any interest in talking to anyone, as Jean mentioned. They can't do it on their phone. They're less likely to do it. So they're probably in that lower percentage who don't actually ask the questions when they have a life event. So one of the things that we were also struggling with is that because we don't have centralized HR, they were turning to each other. And if they didn't have a great resource to provide them with the answers and to provide them with the correct answers, there was a lot of incorrect information that was being disseminated amongst them. And we heard all the time, well, so-and-so told me that this is how the benefits worked. Or the other thing that we heard a lot was, well, no one told me. So it was really important that we put everything in one location, that they had a dedicated resource that they could tap into in a number of ways. They could go on the web, they could pick up the phone and call right from the app, they could download the app, or there was a phone number, so when they called our total rewards line, they were ported right to the Balanced Benefits team. So, we just made sure that we had a very comprehensive plan as to how we could reach everybody at every level. So we were really trying to look at reaching all of the generations, which was really important. So Jean, if you want to go to the next slide for me. I'm sure most of you can relate to this. We never get compliments, right? We really, when we're rolling out benefits, It's hard to get people engaged. It's hard to, people don't call about healthcare when they're happy. They only call, excuse me, when they're having difficulty and when they are having, when they're kind of struggling. And so once we rolled out the balanced benefits program, like I said, starting with advocacy, and then we also incorporated, answering all the calls 24/7 about medical benefits and the employee assistance program, we really started to see much better utilization. We were getting more calls, because we had the expanded hours. And for our financial representatives, what that means is that gives them more time to focus on the important things of their job. It also gives them time to focus on their families and, whatever was important to them, we were giving them that time back in order to, to take one more thing off of their plate. So, like I mentioned, we don't ever get compliments, and I think if you go to the next slide, you'll see here are just a few of the testimonials that we received from our financial representatives. And I really can't speak enough about this. It was amazing, even to our upper leadership, how the financial representatives reacted to the service and to the just the opportunity to have this enhanced benefit available to them whenever they needed it. It really has made all the difference. And so, we regularly actually get compliments and get feedback from our financial representatives about the service that they receive from balanced benefits, and it's really become more of a routine for them. They're really used to calling the balanced benefits team instead of calling us, which we appreciate, and it's a true partnership. We look at them as an extension of our own team. It's not just a third party that we outsource to. They really have become a true extension of our team, and we work with them on a daily basis, and we're constantly talking, and it's hands down the best decision that we have ever made for both Northwestern Mutual and our financial representatives.
Okay, thanks, Jenny Ray. Very good. I'm going to wrap up here with a few last slides, and then we'll get to any questions that we can answer in the time that we have left. We'll have about maybe 5-10 minutes at the end. So I'm just going to wrap up with the idea that it's, we'd like to say it's time to engage your multi-generational workforce and bring your benefits to life and really increase that engagement of that benefit package. A customized benefit package for every employee is what you're aiming at, a way for them to address that benefit package, through many different platforms, that mobile platform, the call center, web portal, and so on, but in a way that's driven through life events. So it's a simple way for them to really connect with their age and stage needs, and to better connect them to how they want to access that information too. And we like to say just simply leverage the benefits that you already have. Again, many employers offer a very robust, very in-depth benefit package that addresses many of those life events at a very high level when they're connected and integrated that way. Selecting the right partner is key. Steps you can take. These are some suggestions we have to review, how to make a selection for that. We, of course, believe the life event approach to connection is a great way to go. That 24/7 availability that Jenny Ray mentioned is important. I think benefits should be, and the questions and information is available on a round-the-clock fashion. Mobile app is really a must in today's way from connectivity. I mean, again, with that millennial generation, increasing in size every day, it's really where their information portal is. So, and again, like Jenny Ray mentioned, all the way through the health advocacy support and that web portal access is all important for people to connect to their benefits in a way that meets their age and stage needs, kind of hyper-personalizes to them and gets them thinking about that benefits that the employer offers as a very positive, support system and a satisfaction level that they need to, better retain that job that they have with that employer. Some of the results, just wrapping up here, we'd like to say that it increases retention when you connect people to benefits in a kind of new, defined way. It increases productivity. People have more time, like Jenny Ray said, to do the things they need to do. It's greater overall employee satisfaction. It's a great recruitment and retention tool. Just we see in some employers just showing their benefits of these new hires on an app and how they can connect it to them really seems to be a bell ringer with them from a recruitment standpoint, that they can see how those benefits are set up in a way that they can access that they're more used to. It does enhance, I think, benefit administration. It better connects employees to it, like we said. It can increase that utilization of the benefits. A lot of benefits are underutilized, I believe, and often that opportunity is missed to provide services under those benefits. And of course, for the human resource, I think it really allows more that what C-suite is looking for, that focus on strategic planning. Really gets past a lot of the transactional components of, benefit information transfer and answering inquiries and stuff around benefits, and really frees up HR's time to do more of that strategic planning to not only hire, but also to retain the best talent out there to, move that strategic plan of that business ahead. All right, so thank you very much, and I appreciate your time today, and both Jenny Ray and I will be available for the next 5-10 minutes here if there's some questions and some information we can give from that side. So I'll put it back to you, Kathy.
Okay, Jean, there are a few questions that have come through. Let's see here. Do you have any tips for small businesses around 50 employees on types of benefits or perks to offer?
Small businesses, 50 employees, of types of benefits or perks to offer. Well, I just think a lot of small businesses have the same challenges that larger businesses have. And, it's always a challenge for those small businesses to afford benefits. I think there's a lot of affordable benefits out there that they can offer that can, assist them in retaining their people. I even think, just giving them good general information around benefits that can provide child care services and even, in-home, care services, that type of thing is something that a lot of them are looking for. I think a lot of the smaller employers are even looking at ways how they can help some of the younger population address their debt from colleges and how they can maybe in a way help pay for some of that college debt, or at least give them low interest loans to address that. I know that's becoming more and more popular. I just think, a good benefit package that a small employer can offer doesn't have to be one that's, too expensive and too difficult for them to address. And there's a lot of kind of lower cost benefits that a lot of the, I'll say, younger millennials coming into that workforce can often respond to.
Great, thank you. Another question here. What are some of the newer non-traditional benefits being offered by employers?
Well, Jenny Ray, you can weigh in, but I think some of the newer non-traditional, I know pet insurance is becoming a bigger and bigger benefit that's often sought after by a lot of employers, and I think that's somewhat non-traditional. Also, I think, too, financial support benefits, kind of the financial wellness movement is really non-traditional, I'll say, and getting bigger in a way to address individuals' needs to relieve the stress and the whole financial scene out there. So some benefits around helping them, build budgets and look at their debt and address that and do planning, even different ways that they can connect them with support services to better manage their finances. I'll say one more non-traditional, I think, in a way, is the whole wellness world has kind of changed, I think, from what I've seen, to be more toward kind of a total well-being approach. And I think from a non-traditional standpoint with the question, I think a lot of the benefits are being offered where it's more about the total well-being of the individual and how can we find a specific need that they have from a well-being standpoint and offer a non-traditional benefit that can address that, whether it is addressing their finances. It could be addressing some of the more traditional wellness things, physical fitness or nutrition, but it could be addressing things like interpersonal dynamics and how to better improve those for the individual. So again, more of that non-traditional approach, but I think it's seeing it more and more toward, that total well-being or enhancing the well-being of their individuals. I don't know, Jenny, Ray.
Yeah, Jean, and I can add on to that, definitely. One of the most requested benefits that we're hearing about right now is mindfulness and like resiliency training, and that's something that we're definitely exploring. And then the other thing that has been very popular with our financial representatives is the personal assistant program that is offered through ENI's EAP. It's something that we it was kind of an added perk that was included with the EAP the Employee Assistance Program, that our financial representatives have really latched onto, and they use it for all sorts of things, from, finding assistance with a daycare or care like a nursing home, or my personal favorite was we had a ton of people who were using it to help research new cars. So, I mean, just the variety of uses. It's been used to help plan vacations and, just the little things like that where you can take some of that stress and that pressure off of your workforce and, again, allow them to get back to what's important to them, spending time with their family, going to concerts, working out, whatever the case might be. You kind of free up that capacity for them. So those are two of the more interesting benefit options that we've been exploring and that our financial representatives really enjoy.
Great, thank you. Another question here for either of you. Can you give a real-life example of how life event technology helped an employee?
A real-life, yeah. Yes, I can. We had an individual call in, and this is a real example and it was actually a physician with a hospital that we work with, and her husband had received a terminal diagnosis that was very obviously upsetting to her, and she basically called in to see which benefits she had that could better support that, because she didn't know where to start. By entering in, that information, the technology, the computer then connects all the benefits that can best serve, that type of situation. In this case, getting this bad news on this, and it brought up several of the benefits that individual could tie into. Obviously, you need to look at their health insurance and the coverage there. They needed to look at the health advocacy service that they had and how that can support her during that time. They had services that were listed under the life event technology for support, from a grieving standpoint, even what Jenny Ray mentioned from a personal assistant standpoint, to help her plan a lot of the activities and different situations she was going to encounter in the upcoming months. So that was a real example where somebody called in with a very difficult situation, and by having their benefits connected to the life event, it could bring up and show the totality of all those benefits and which ones could support that individual during that time. So that was one that was just so impactful, that I remember, that really showed how that life event technology and connecting the benefits through that way really quickly didn't silo the benefits, but integrated them in a way that could address that need.
Thank you. We do have another question here. Someone is saying they're not based in the U.S., they have a global role, and they were just curious, the stats on your slides, the stats in the data, are they U.S. numbers or global numbers?
Well, these are U.S. numbers that we have in here. So, they're not global numbers. That would be my answer. I think a lot of the, the need for the challenge to retain and to recruit and people out there is on a global level. I know there's a lot of that shortage in many different countries as well, but the stats that we had here are more U.S. based. Yes.
Perfect. So Jean, we're going to wrap up the webcast now. Do you have any, or Jenny as well, do you have any final closing comments for our audience?
No, I don't. I just want to thank you for your time and interaction today. And if you have any other questions, we have our contact information there at the end, and you can contact us. So thank you.
Well, I want to thank Jean and Jenny for presenting this very informative webcast today, and to ENI for sponsoring. Just a few reminders for the attendees. If you would like to view this webcast again, the archive recording will be available on site for up to 7 days. Slides are also available to download. Your webcast credits are stored in your HR.com account. Watch for your email to arrive within 1 to 2 business days. It will contain the certification credit information. Your feedback is important to us. Please take a moment at the end and fill out the exit survey that will appear on your screen. This concludes today's webcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.